So, my apologies. Yes, life with animals. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, right? How do we know that Ryu is indeed probably right somebody that an existentialist would respect and understand? Well, he does have personal interest in all of these situations, and he acts in such a way that we sort of understand that every decision he makes is very personal, right? He is honestly considering and weighing the options every single time that he acts. If we look at it from a strictly existential point of view, do his actions pass the good faith test? Well, he would hope that everybody would also, right, help others, right? When he sends his wife to recover, right, from sort of this issue that she has. It's really before the plague starts, right? He doesn't. It's not like he sends her off when he understands the plague is going to happen. It happens a little bit before. And even that particular action, I think he would have agreed if everybody had a sick spouse that needed to receive care. Yes, you would send those people away, right? We generally look at his actions, right, as those that follow those principles, right? We look at his actions as those that he has considered, right? He has done both what Kierkegaard would say, right? He has strived to do something. He's agonized over choices. He's decided. He's acted, and he's committed to those actions, right? So both for Kierkegaard and for Sartre, I think we look at him as somebody who is making in general decisions that we would find to be acceptable, right? And the rest of the townspeople, right? I think the one that we really have to consider, that we are looking at this first two, let's say two, that we are considering with this first half of the book, Panelu, right, the priest, and Rambert, right, the journalist. When we look at Panelu, this, of course, is Camus' take on what religion would do during a pandemic, right? I think it is tactfully done. I think that Camus does expose somewhat his hesitation to accept, believe in, and respect those with religious authority. But I think that Panelu also does believe the things that he is saying. I think that his interpretation is one that, even if we might ultimately believe that it is incorrect, that we may not believe in a God that simply lives to punish his people if they are not doing the right things, but that one way of interpreting this is certainly as a punishment, right? Is it any different than looking back at the Greek gods and the Roman gods and the old, stories of how they would have punished people back in, ancient civilizations, right? And this is sort of the mythos that people came up with. I think we look at it very similarly. Is it a correct interpretation? I'm not sure if we know, right? We don't find out as much about Panelu since the story is kind of told through the eyes of Ryu. We don't find out as much about him, maybe, as we might hope. But at the same time, I think we do look at him as somebody who, especially during this first half of the book, is a difficult figure, right, to deal with, right? Does he participate in helping? Does he, does he see his role as more of only a spiritual role, or could he have participated more physically? I think that is one question that we can certainly ask and demand answers for. Rambert, of course, the last one that I sort of want to talk about at this time. There are others, but I do want to leave some of that interpretation open to you, right? This is a place for you to sort of stretch your legs and figure out how you would create an interpretation of the way the book works. But for Rambert, right, this is, I think, our most complicated case. He is stuck in a wrong. He wants to leave, and he finds himself unable to. And he is willing to break the rules in order to leave. We can look at this in two different ways, right? Either that, certainly his personal convictions, he is making this decision with every bit of his own understanding of the situation. He knows what the risks are. He knows, he is committed, right? He is making this decision, really, as Sartre would, I think, point out, in fairly good faith, in that he is not acting because of other people, right? He does want to see his wife, but it is, excuse me, his decision to want to leave. But we can also look at it as a decision that may feel irresponsible when we look at it from the point of view of existential thought, right? His decision to leave, possibly taking the plague with him and possibly taking infection with him and allowing the rest of the world to be exposed, he's saying that he's okay with everybody trying to make this decision, right? Which clearly we can see would be a really terrible decision. If the plague leaves the city and gets out to the rest of the world, it could be, a global pandemic and not just a plague that is sort of localized. So I think we do have some very complicated work to do trying to figure out how we interpret his actions. But I think that when we look at this and then weigh it against, right, the ultimate ending of the book, we do, again, as we do in many pieces of literature, see a full character arc for a lot of these people, right? We see a full character arc for Panelu. Is it the one we hope for? Maybe, maybe not, right? Is Rambert's character arc the one that we hope for? We're not really sure, right? At this point in time, because we haven't concluded it yet, right? But, right? So your work, right, this week is going to be, reading this, interpreting sort of what you see, taking those notes, right, and sort of identifying places where you see that existential mindset, both in the characters, but also how would you evaluate it from the point of view of somebody who holds these this philosophy very close to themselves, right? Do we, as people who are evaluating existentialism, think that these people pass that sort of test? Hello, Sadie. Yeah, that's Sadie back there. You saw her in the first video, and she's back. So, all right, so coming up, I just want to give you a few additional pointers on finishing up this book and also talk a little bit more about the discussion board and about some of the things that are coming up in the next couple of weeks.